Hello there. We're in Dallas, Texas today at Killer Vintage Specialty Guitars. And I'm here with somebody I've known for quite a few years, Brian Hash Brown Calway. We're going to spend a little time with Brian and ask him a few questions and have him share a few stories with us. How you doing today, Hash?
I'm doing great, Jay. Good to be here with you.
Good to see you, man. It's been a while.
Yeah, it has been. We all get busy.
Hopefully. Now, I'm looking back and I'm wondering, I think it was the Eagle Pawn shop that I met you in 1990 or thereabouts.
Yeah, I worked there around 93. Actually, I had been on the road for a while, and then I got it. That was my first day job here in Dallas. Up to that point, I moved here in 82 and had been playing full time since then. And then got a part-time day job working at the pawn shop. A lot of fun.
I'm glad you were there. I still have some of the cymbals and stuff I bought from you back
I
then.
tried to part out some good equipment to some people I know who would use it, and still got quite a few friends back from that time. It was a real cool time.
Now, you're from Connecticut, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, Connecticut originally.
What the heck brought you here?
A woman.
There you go.
That's a long story, but short story. I met her when I was 20 and she was 16, and we were together for about 10 years. And toward probably 7 years into it, she said, "I'm going to move to Dallas. My mom's down there. You want to come? Come on. If not, see ya." So I moved down here, and I hated it.
Really?
I hated it when I got here, and then being a super blues fan, I discovered the scene and went, wow, this is where T-Bone Walker's from, Lightning Hopkins is from Houston, Freddie King, his family was still lives in Dallas. A lot of blues here. Alex Moore was still around at the time. Little Joe Blue lived in Dallas. There were so many players, and the scene was really thriving back then. It was tons of clubs, tons of places to play, tons of places to jam. It was a really great scene.
Yeah, that was a different time. There was a lot of work available, a lot of venues supporting the music and blues.
Yep.
And it's kind of funny how the music thing went. I mean, Lower Greenville Avenue.
Yep.
Went to West End.
Yep.
Went to Deep Ellum.
Yeah.
Moved around a bit.
Yeah. Everything, it went really well probably all the way until right after 9/11, probably 2001. The scene started to really wane then, and then with the ultimate crash of around 2007, 2008, then everything really changed. Now, one of the good things about myself, I play guitar, I sing, I play bass, I play harmonica. I be as versatile as I can. I play solo, I play trio, I play jazz, I play blues, I play in a country band. More versatile you can be, better off you're going to be. A lot of the gigs nowadays are in restaurants and grocery stores.
Right.
So, and they're a lot earlier as the demographic has changed. So, less DWI laws, just everything has changed.
The DWI laws have really affected
I still like to ply my trade, and I still love playing music, and I still love playing out as much as possible. So I just now I find I'm teaching a bunch. About 3-4 years ago, I started a guitar workshop that I do a couple times in California, and I do it 3 times in Clarksdale, Mississippi, and I also do harmonica jam camps that a good friend of mine who actually was an author of some of the early harmonica instructional material in the late 70s, early 80s. And he's been doing harmonica jam camps for probably 15, 20 years. I've been working with him for about 10 years. Yeah.
Who's that?
John Gindick out of California.
So let me ask you,
Sure.
what first got you into music, and more specifically blues music, being up in Connecticut?
Well, like any kid who grew up around the same time, you're about my age, we grew up around the same time, and, when the Beatles came I just went, wow, I want to play guitar, and I always wanted to play guitar. When I was in grade school, my friends did, and my parents went, no, you're going to play trumpet in the stage band. So that's what I did. I played trumpet all the way through high school, and I also picked up the harmonica around that time. And, as a kid growing up in that time, late 60s, early 70s, really liked all the rock and roll going on. I grew up with all that. And let's see, around 70, 71, the first live show I ever saw was Jeff Beck Group. They were touring behind their album Rough and Ready. And saw that band with Todd Rundgren opening, and it was a great show. And the next night we said, hey, let's come back. There's a blues show. It's Muddy Waters and Willie Dixon. And I came back the next night at the same club. It was actually it's called the Palace Theater. It was a big theater, with the stage with all the curtains and everything.
Right.
And it was Muddy Waters Blues Band and the Willie Dixon Blues Band. And there was only about 150 people there. And it was kind of like, that shaft of light or the lightning bolt you see in the Blues Brothers movie. I went, oh my God, the blues, I love that. So ever since then I've really been into it.
Yeah, it's amazing how blues influenced the British invasion.
Oh yeah.
I know 1970 DC Blues Festival, Randy Joe
Yep.
played that, and he was playing with Luther Allison,
Yep.
he'd been with for years, and
Yep.
ended up playing with Howlin' Wolf.
Yep.
The next year, 71, there were more British guys
He
rather than the
was
old guys.
One of the only white blues musicians to ever play with Howlin' Wolf.
That lived to tell the tale.
He never liked to hire white guys. I mean, because he wanted it, his homeboys. But he really loved Randy. He did.
Yeah.
That's what I've heard.
And that was
And,
a quote.
we really loved Randy.
That was a quote. The producer
Yeah.
that did the documentary
Yeah.
brought that at his funeral.
Yep.
So that was kind of interesting. So, all right, you probably played a con or some kind of a trumpet, but what was your first guitar?
My first guitar, it was right when I was getting ready to graduate from high school. I think I was 17, and my parents came up with some money, and I got a Conqueror Les Paul, a black Les Paul,
Wow.
just a really cheap Japanese copy of Les Paul. And myself and my friend who actually moved down here, Drew Elaine, he's a bass player. He had been taking bass lessons. So we went into my bedroom and we practiced up a couple of songs, and we dragged our amps up to the youth center that day and immediately played our first gig.
Is that right, with
Yeah.
Drew Lane?
Yeah.
I didn't know Drew was from Connecticut.
Yeah, I met Drew when he was about 2 years old, and I
Wow.
was 3, so we've known each other that long.
So you were the older guy.
Oh,
the bad
you're
influence.
older than
Yeah,
him,
yeah,
so.
Yeah, bad influence probably.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
All right, now, with the blues history, and of course, we in Texas look to you as being the official on blues culture, blues influence. Anything you want to know, if there's ever a bet going on or discussion, you are always the final word.
Well, the thing that's funny about it, I really like the history behind the music besides the music itself. On a T-Bone Walker who grew up in Oak Cliff.
Right.
Here, real quick, I'll go. A little T-Bone, but he grew up in Oak Cliff, and he used to lead Blind Lemon Jefferson, probably one of the first music superstars in the late 20s around Deep Ellum. He was his lead boy.
Oh, really?
And he was the first electric blues guitar player. Another thing that's funny about that is, Charlie Christian, born in Dallas but grew up in Oklahoma. T-Bone, born in Linden, Texas, grew up in Dallas. Okay, and then Bob Wills, guitar player. I can't remember his name. It wasn't Junior Barnard. It was one of the other guys. But the three of them, you know, three different kinds of music, they all used to jam together all the time.
Really?
Yeah. So you got a lot of cross influence happening with that. So
Well,
it's pretty
you know,
cool.
the neighborhood we're in right now, whose neighborhood this used to be? Freddie's.
Yep. Right over
Right-
near Love Field.
right
Yep.
there.
Yep.
We're just
Yeah,
walking away.
you know, the first run-in I ever had with Freddie was when I was living in Connecticut, and I went and saw him, and that album Burglar had just come out, and I went and saw him, and I was really drunk, and I went up to him and said, "Man, you're the greatest." And he just looked at me, he shook his hand. It was like shaking half a ham. His hands were so big. He just looked at me and went, "Dumb college kid." But, you know, I love Freddie, especially all the earlier stuff he did on Federal. I mean, he's, you know, there's 3 or 4 really great Texas blues players like Freddie who kind of changed their playing, but, you know, like in later years, Freddie's early period for Federal, he did tons of guitar instrumental stuff, which is really cool, really great. But in later years, he really influenced and had major influence on a lot of rock players, and really changed his playing to be more of a rocking style.
I guess that Eric Clapton
Yeah.
union kind of helped that along.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, and Clapton really loved Freddie King. I mean, you know, the same thing with B.B. King. You know, a lot of people go, yeah, he took their music. No, he really revered them and respected them, and he respected a lot of the old blues guys. I remember Sam Myers, who I lived with for a few years. He had a song in 1957 called "Sleeping in the Ground," and Clapton did it with Blind Faith. I think Robert Cray did it. Canned Heat did it, but I remember Sam saying, "I'll never do that song again. They stole my song and never got no money." And really, probably, I think whoever owned the publishing on it sold it off. But when Sam got cancer and we did a big benefit down in Lower Greenville, one day I got a phone call, and it was Eric Clapton's manager, and he said, "Mr. Clapton wants to send $5,000. You know, just where do we send a check?"
Oh, wow.
So,
Yeah.
and that was no fanfare, no nothing. Just called up and said, "Hey, I want to send some money." So, you know, I mean, he really respected those guys. You know, that's cool. And, you know, I mean, that's another way, seeing Muddy really turned me on to a lot of blues, but I really loved all the early British blues players, especially Clapton. I was a Clapton freak early on. You know, where I went and got all of his early stuff, even before he played with John Mayall.
Right.
Stuff. There's a bunch of guitar instrumentals he did with Jimmy Page that are really cool.
That I did not know.
You know, and he had a band called the Powerhouse. And you know, he's also always, you know, I mean, there you go, one of the seminal players of rock and roll. You know, probably you can name less than 10 guys that really made what rock and roll is today. I mean, guitarists, and he was one of the guys that was right there, one of probably 5, you know.
Tremendous influence.
You know, you know, I find all that amazing. You know, and it's, you know, that's funny. You know, I'm over 60 years old, and I still get all excited about all this stuff. I love it, you know.
It'll make a child out of every
Yeah.
one of us.
Yeah.
Because it
Yeah.
gets down to the basis of who we are.
Yeah,
And it goes beyond description, words of description.
yeah, yeah.
And, you know, another great influence on me was Canned Heat when they got John Lee Hooker
Yeah.
to play with them and other
Yep.
of those
Yep.
situations.
Yep. Yeah. Well, you know, I mean, what I'm trying to remember his name. And Candy Allen, the harmonica
Oh,
player.
yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Well, I mean, he actually.
Al.
Yeah. Al Wilson. Okay, he was one of the guys who helped get Son House rediscovered and out playing. In some of those videos, you see Son House, actually Al Wilson showed him how to, he'd forgotten how to play, hadn't played in 20, 30 years. And Al Wilson retaught him how to play guitar. And in some of those videos, you can see Son House playing Al Wilson's National. So.
Well, here's a question for you
Sure.
on that. I remember a story from years back when Son House had been influenced by some of the British players.
Yeah.
And went back up on stage with the Wolf and had a pick in his hand.
Yeah.
And the Wolf looked around and says, "What the hell is that?" And told him to get out of there until he learned to play with his fingers again. So,
Well, there's also a video, and actually it was a staged video of Howlin' Wolf playing in like a juke joint. And it looks like a real juke joint, but it was staged by European guys. And Son House was there, and he was drunk, and he was heckling Howlin' Wolf. and Howlin' Wolf was saying, "Yeah, you had money, but you drunk it all up." And a lot of people think, well, yeah, he was putting Son House in his place. But, people like Howlin' Wolf and Muddy Waters, they worship the ground that people like Charlie Patton and Son House walked on. They thought those guys were gods, I think there's a statement after that where somebody was saying to Wolf, "Yeah, I like how you yelled at that guy from, yeah." And he said, "You don't know what you're talking about. That man, there wouldn't be everything that's already happened if it wasn't for that one man." He really held him in high regard in his heart. Yeah.
well, 508 Park Avenue.
Yep.
Tremendous history there that we're
Yep.
being reacquainted with here recently.
Yeah. That was actually ARC Records. It was a warehouse for records, but then they had a recording studio in there too. And they recorded all kinds of, Bob Wells recorded in there, Light Crust Doughboys, Robert Johnson. I mean, they recorded all kinds of music, all kinds of different stuff. And, that building, I'm happy to see them doing something because for years it just sat vacant for years. And for years they didn't really know where it was or what the building was. And probably between Chuck Nevitt and Don O, they figured out that was the place, that was the building. Through going through tax records, going through library records, Dallas, and around the turn of the century, had a black newspaper. I think it was called The Defender, and they had all the microfiche and libraries. Chuck Nevitt used to work as a cab driver in his spare time. He'd go down there and go through microfiche. That's how he found Zuzu Bowling.
I'll be damned.
Found an article on Zuzu and printed it out, and he showed it to old sax player that Buster Smith, that actually was Charlie Parker's mentor. He showed the picture to Buster Smith. He had a band around town called the Heat Waves of Swing, and he said, "I know that guy. He's still alive. He lives down over here." So, near Thomas and Hall. At that time, where there used to be Henderson's Chicken over there.
Right.
Before, now it's all yuppies apartments, but that used to be a
Now they call it
down,
Uptown or something.
yeah, something like that. It wasn't no Uptown back then. And actually, right near that intersection, there used to be a club there. I think it was the Empire Room, where T-Bone used to play and Jimmy Reed used to play. So.
There's another thing about 508, and I played there with KM before,
Yeah.
the 87th anniversary of Robert Johnson recording there, which happened to be on Juneteenth.
Yep.
And that's Encore Park.
Yep.
Great venue.
Yep.
And you've played there.
Yep.
What do you have coming up, by the way?
As soon as we finish this interview, I got to run home and go to Tyler. I'm playing with a harmonica band in Tyler. So I'll be playing harmonica and singing with Todd Blaylock playing guitar. Last night I played with Band of Brothers, which is some of the guys from Hanson's old band. and we do a mix of old country, red dirt, old rock and roll, and blues. Let's see. Tomorrow I'm doing a duo in Fort Worth at Fred's with Cadillac Johnson.
Oh, good.
Thursday I did a gig at the courthouse, Denton, with another band playing harmonica and singing, and then later on went down and I run a jam out in Rowlett on Thursdays at a place called The Track. So
You've been there
I mean,
a while.
some weeks it's good, some weeks it's sparse, but still love it.
What about releases, CDs? What do you have out there? What do you have coming up? Anything?
I mean, actually, I haven't done a new CD in probably over 10 years. Last one I did was with a bunch of Austin. I did a Dallas recording and then an Austin recording. And when I was in Austin, I used Johnny Moeller, who plays with Fabulous Thunderbirds now, and Johnny Bradley, who plays with Gary Clark Jr., and Jason Moeller, who used to play with the T-Birds. And when we did the recording up here, Nick Kern played on it, who used to play with the Fabulous Thunderbirds, and different Dallas musicians on that. That was actually called the Brown Tones. I basically wrote most of the material and played harmonica on it. It's more Chicago style stuff. Jimmy Rogers, Little Walter, that kind of stuff. So.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
Now back to guitars.
Mm-hmm.
What guitars are you playing now?
Right now I'm playing a Japanese brand guitar. It's called an Edwards. They're made at the ESP Custom Shop in Japan. It's a Jimmy Page relic with a super circuit, which means it's got push-pull knobs on it. And I really like playing that guitar lately.
Solid body?
It weighs 7 pounds. It's a regular Les Paul.
I see.
59 style Les Paul. And before that, I was playing a Tokai ES 135, which actually is like a 335 style guitar like this. I really love 335 style guitars, or 330s like this.
Well, a little bit of a difference might be the pickups on it.
Well,
Buckers
these are P90s.
Yep.
Those are single coils. The one I have has humbuckers, but like I said, it's got a super circuit, so it's got push pulls, and you pop the tone right here, and it puts the pickups out of phase, so I get that T-bone sound.
Essentially, coil splitter.
Yeah. So, but it, probably that's the guitar I'm playing right now. But I love guitars. I've got 50 different guitars,
Really?
and I love Fenders. I love Gibson. Lately, I really have a soft spot for P90 guitars, and I have a soft spot for 335 style guitars. So.
All right. Towards the end of this interview,
Yeah.
if you could look at one influence that influenced your blues the most. I know we've discussed a few of them, but as you go from day to day, current day to day, who do you think that might be?
Probably B.B. King.
Really?
Probably early B.B. King, like the stuff he did on RPM Records. He was just fabulous. So, I love we were talking about Freddie and how he changed his style, but BB did kind of the same thing, really changed up his style, probably in the mid late 60s, really changed and got a whole different thing going on. Back in the 50s, he was playing more Okay, and then in the 60s, he started doing a lot of single note stuff.
A lot of vibratos and bends.
So during the 60s, he you know, I mean, he really changed up his style. Did a lot more single note work, but a lot of people were influenced by B.B. King, especially his work through the 50s, from about 1949 up to probably 1959, 1960. I mean, people like Chuck Berry, all the British guys. Freddie King was even influenced by B.B. So.
I remember B.B. saying one time that if he could sing the notes, he could play them.
Yep.
And
Yep.
that was a big deal for him.
Yeah.
And it works.
Yeah.
Well, you want to play us a little as we go out? What are we going to hear?
We were talking about Freddie, so why don't we play this Freddie, Sad Night Owl.
Oh, right. Well, we're going to bring you back here for a second. Wanted to ask you one more question. What is the biggest, coolest gig you ever played?
That could be either the King Biscuit or maybe the Belgium Rhythm and Blues Festival. You know, when you're playing on a stage and there's 50 to 100,000 people up there, and then they got the, what do you call it, Tron, the big screen.
Right. The Jumbotron?
Yeah, you know, and all these Europeans are out there, and it's sponsored by some beer company, and you just hear, roar. They're all so drunk. I know Richard played that festival. Belgium Rhythm and Blues Festival.
I was going to ask you who brought you there.
Yeah.
No? It wasn't Richard, okay.
No. Actually, over there, I think I played there with Henry Qualls.
Oh, yeah.
So, there's a guy from Terrell, Texas, kind of played like Lightning Hopkins style stuff, you know.
Throw that pick away. Don't need them.
Go get me my shotgun. Yet I'm fixing to shoot again. Go get me my shotgun. Yes, I'm fixing to shoot again. Got to shoot my woman, 'cause she's messing around with another man.
Lots of shooting going on back then, wasn't there?
Yeah, well, you know.
Gonna murder my baby.
Hey, I want to thank you all for having me.
It's always a pleasure. You're one of a kind.
You know,
We
let's
love
keep,
you,
let's
Don.
keep this blues alive. Let's keep it alive.
You help, and you keep
I
it
try.
accurate and authentic.
I tried
And
as much as I can. That's what, well, you know, actually, I don't do it for a particular reason other than that, you know, that's just in my heart and that's what comes out. I love that kind of stuff. You know, like, you know, a lot of guys go, that's too rockin'. No, it's all good. You know, it's kind of like what Duke Ellington said. There's two kinds of music, bad and good. And you know, if you hear something and you think you like it, there's nothing wrong with that. You know, it's all personal. So.
Well, that's what I say whenever I make a mistake. What do you know? This is the way I play the song.
Yep.
So for That's Live TV, here with Brian Hashbound Calway, until next week, we'll see you then.